Moving on now. With each passing day, the economic costs of the menace of crude oil thefts stare us in the face. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajudeen Abbas, said the country lost about $40 billion, which is equivalent to 16.25 trillion naira to crude oil thefts between 2009 to 2020. At the inauguration of the ad hoc committee to investigate crude oil theft and loss of revenue, the Speaker said the menace has hampered oil production, with the country losing between 5 to 30% of daily production. Dipo, this is not good enough. Well, because the people we are losing to, these people that are battling with government for production and everything, some of them you discover that there are people in government conniving with security agencies that are sabotaging our effort to maximize our crude oil exports.
Well, that's the unfortunate part of it. And for me, really, if you ask me, I'm tired of us reeling out this figure.
Figures, yes.
It's for me very embarrassing.
I agree.
It's not something we should be talking about, figures now. It's something we should be talking about having coped, because we know where the challenges are. We get a lot of dis and misinformation on these issues. But even if we go by this figure, I think it's quite shameful that in 11 years, we lost 16.25 trillion naira. That's an average of over 1.47 trillion every year. How much really is the budget of Nigeria for 1 year?
The figure that VAT has generated from January to December for Nigeria.
So it's a shame. And like I always say, if you get a figure like this from a government agency, or from, let's say, government itself, you should please multiply it by 10. Because what we get is usually not, it's even always inaccurate when it comes to issues like this. Because you don't even know what the reality is. You don't even know what the truth is. So what we should focus on is not all of this setting up ad hoc committees and all the rest. It should be serious solution to this menace. And for me, I appear excited about the coming of this government, especially with the appointment of the NSA, National Security Advisor, and people who are field soldiers who have been appointed as service chiefs, not people who sit back in the office, who don't know about operations. I'm excited about it. We need to get quickly over this. But at the same time, like we've said over and over on this program, the military cannot afford to keep failing Nigeria when it comes to this issue of crude oil theft. We've been let down a lot of times. Some of them have been convicted over crude oil theft. Generals are that. We need to quickly get over this. And like we said some time ago, it's a shame that a company like Tantita Security Services, which is privately owned, can guard our pipelines far better than even the military is doing. That's the area we should be looking at. We should stop throwing out these figures. It can be annoying reading some of these things, because you can imagine what 16.25 trillion naira will do for a country like Nigeria.
But you can imagine, there are players now, those private security firms, and I was around the Niger Delta sometime last week. I went to the Baramatu Kingdom. I went on an excursion, and I discovered that these guys, they've been playing such a strategic role in collaboration with the Nigerian Navy. And since they've taken over this thing, the theft of crude oil has declined, reasonably. So what is this telling us?
You see, it's just telling us that we need to properly define our policies in that sector. There are still a lot of things that are not in place, You keep seeing Tantita and Tom Polo's company and the Navy,
OMS.
The Navy fighting over identified vessels used for crude oil theft. There's still another one. Some people were arrested by the Navy, but again, they've been cleared that they were on legitimate duty. There was the other one about, was it a Navy commander who was also, who resisted an attempt by Tantita to board a vessel. You see, we have come to a point where some of these things should no longer be. If there are people in the security services that are sabotaging the economy in that industry, they should be shown the way out. You see, we keep one major problem we have in Nigeria is that non-state actors compete effectively, actively with the government that ought to have monopoly of violence. You see, these non-state actors, they compete with the government, and they actually, in some cases, even drive the government away from the space that should belong to the government. And it's unacceptable. You now have the issue raised by the governor of Rivers State, Fubara, talking about those who are making money from security in the Niger Delta. He even mentioned one traditional in Niger Delta, and that is a sticking point that might lead to violence. There has been this standard accusation that, it's militants that are behind it. But we remember Asari Dokubo came out when he went to the villa and met with President Tinubu. We heard the things he said. So if the people we're accusing, of being behind this crude oil theft are the ones coming out to say, no, the people who should deter such acts are the ones behind it, then I think the government needs to actually get in and deal with this issue once and for all. It's an embarrassment, and the nation is bleeding. Can you imagine 1.4 trillion, which is what were recorded as that from January to June? That is what is being stolen from oil every year. You say Nigeria should pay more tax, Nigeria should pay VAT, Nigeria should do this. But there's a sector that should actually, that we call the mainstay of the economy, bleeding from different points. Why should we keep doing this? It's unacceptable.
Babajide, now you look at the drive by the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu to make sure that they block these loopholes. I don't think crude oil theft will be entertained in this administration because of the revenue drive. The man needs money and is doing everything that he can do to block loopholes.
Yes, he needs money, and we are already seeing signs that revenue will improve in terms of taxation in naira form. We are already improving. A lot of people may not know this, but this is a fact. We are improving. He is someone who wants to generate as much money as possible, and that's why he had to meet with Asari Dokubo and every stakeholder that he thinks knows something about the oil theft in the Niger Delta area. You can see that the armed forces have stepped up the destruction of illegal refineries. They've really done. The Air Force has used the Tucano bombers tremendously, because I was with the Chief of Air Staff, and I was happy to hear him talk about their operations in the Niger Delta area. The Tucano jets are involved in precision bombing of the illegal illegal refineries, and there are so many of them. So it's not a surprise that we are seeing an increase in even our oil output. We are producing more now. They are reducing the oil theft day by day is going down. The NNPCL CEO told us that they were even able to achieve 1.6 million barrels a day, which is still less than our production quota, because there was a time, I think around, there was a time we were doing 2.5 million barrels a day. That was around 2005. Then it went to it went down to 1.77 million barrels a day in the year 2020, and it continued to decline. Came down to 1.18, and then the budget projection is 1.69 million barrels a day. But there were months when we didn't do beyond 1 million barrels, 1.1, 1.08, which is less than 1.1 million. So that is why you see that even a war-torn country like Libya has overtaken us as Africa's second highest producer. It's terrible. In the past, Angola could not see our back as an oil producer. But today, Angola is Africa's Nigeria's number one producer. If we work harder at keeping these oil thieves away, because there are also one reason investors are reluctant to come into the sector. Some of the investors have actually even divested. They've left our country. And because they've left our country, there is no way that it will not affect our oil output, because you need time before you can bring in other people to fill the void that they have created. So the fact that our oil production has declined is not solely because of oil theft. The fact that big oil majors are leaving our country is also a factor. So it's not just because of oil theft. Some have left, and we need new major oil companies to come in and fill the void created by those who have left. We need to really take the securing of our oil facilities more seriously. I believe that we'll get there. Ashwa Tinubu has no choice. He wants an improvement in that area, and I know that he will keep working at ensuring that we make more money. But just as the speaker said, we are approaching a fiscal crisis, but we will not earn enough money if we fail to sort out this big problem. We won't earn enough money. Our currency will remain weak, and we won't be able to pay our bills as a nation. We won't be able to honor our obligations as a nation.
All right. The hunt is on for the killers of the police